talk about warming up. Completion of warm-ups has a lot more benefits than we often realize. Essentially, the goal is to prepare yourself mentally and physically for the upcoming workout. A well-designed warm-up has several physiological responses that can potentially increase subsequent performance. The positive effects on performance may include improvements to the rate of force development and reaction time, improvements in muscle strength and power, improved oxygen delivery, blood flow to the active muscles, enhanced metabolic reactions, and even increased psychological preparedness for performance. Now that we know the many benefits of a warm-up, how should we structure our warm-ups? A warm-up should consist of a period of aerobic exercise and ending with a period of activity similar to the upcoming workout. Traditional warm-up program structure is built around these requirements and typically involve two key phases. The first key phase is the general warm-up. This may consist of 5 to 10 minutes of slow aerobic activity, such as walking, jogging, skipping, or even cycling. The goal is to increase your heart rate and perspiration and focus on decreasing the viscosity, which means the thickness of joint fluids. The second key phase is the specific warm-up. This incorporates movements similar to the movement patterns of your upcoming workout. This phase should include rehearsal of the skills to be performed. So, if your first exercise, for example, is a squat, then performing a few movement patterns similar to the squat is recommended. Here's an example of how a lower body warm-up routine might look. The general warm-up could consist of 5 minutes on the treadmill just to increase that heart rate. The specific warm-up could include various movements that activate the muscle groups that are expected to be engaged during the upcoming lower body day. So that's typically going to be the quads, hamstrings, and or glutes. Each warm-up exercise, I typically like to do 1 to 2 sets of about 8 to 10 reps. For myself, I have found this to be a good amount of volume to promote those previous benefits I mentioned from the warm-up that doesn't lead to fatigue prior to the actual workout. I typically like to start out with some bodyweight squats. That's just to help get the quads activated and to loosen up the hips, which is extremely important if you were sitting all day prior to the lower body day. I will then move on to some squat and reaches just to gain some mobility in my shoulders. After that, I will perform some boiler squats to help wake up the hamstrings, and then maybe finish off with some bodyweight hip thrusts, either bilateral hip thrusts or unilateral hip thrusts, just to help get the glutes firing. As you may have noticed, all of these movements are dynamic in nature. I don't typically perform any static stretching prior to a workout. The reason is because static stretching can help cool down your core body temperature, and we just spent roughly 10 minutes trying to increase it. In addition, static stretching improves flexibility, which isn't always something that we want right before a workout, especially if that's coupled with our core body temperature cooling down, where especially having increased flexibility prior to us lifting heavy loads, that typically isn't recommended, and it doesn't always yield better performance. Depending on what you're trying to accomplish in your workout, it's important to understand that too much flexibility can backfire. For example here, too much flexibility in your spine or even your hamstrings often can lead to back pain or even worse, back injuries. We need that level of stiffness in our hamstrings and our spine in order to maintain a strong neutral back when we are performing movements that load the spine, like back squats, for example. Assuming that we are trying to lift in a pain-free manner without getting hurt when we are lifting, I would save stretching for a later date. Typically at the end of your workout for about 5 to 10 minutes, that's typically best. The whole warm-up should progress gradually and provide sufficient intensity to increase muscle and core temperatures without causing fatigue or reducing energy levels. Typically, it should last about 10 to 15 minutes, but no longer than 20 minutes. Lastly, the warm-up should end no more than 15 minutes before the start of the upcoming workout. It has been shown that after this time frame, the positive effects of a warm-up start to dissipate. So warming up at home, for example, and then driving to the gym, it's not going to do a whole heck of a lot. At the end of the day, prioritizing your warm-up is essential when it comes to optimizing performance in the gym gym, so make sure it's a priority and make sure you aren't skipping it. Make sure you subscribe for more videos like this in the future.